Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to another episode of Orchids in Bloom. This is the February edition, and today we're gonna take a look back at the orchids that we've had in bloom for the month of January. They're not all of them, but let's just say they're the ones that I kind of liked the most. Now, before we start, don't forget to leave me a comment with your favorite orchid this month, and it might make it on a mug, because yes, if you didn't know, we currently have beautiful merch mugs. That sounds weird. Beautiful orchid mugs. You can find them for sale at the link below. If you scroll down in the description, you will find my merch store. And I do plan on creating more designs, but of course with the orchids that you guys choose. So you don't need to vote anywhere. You just need to leave me a comment with the orchids or the orchid you enjoyed the most, and I will make sort of a mental note of the orchid which was just more popular, let's say, for the month. So without further ado, let us just start, shall we? Because we do have quite a few orchids that I really want to show you. First off, let's start with a brand new Tolumnia. This is Tolumnia Jairak something. I never remember all of these names. Red Devil, and indeed she is red. Now, I'm always a little bit concerned whenever I get these Tolumnia hybrids, because since I do suspect they come from seed, they can differ a little bit from the listing picture, and I sometimes have pretty great surprises, but in this case it actually looks like the listing. It is full red, there are no specks, or not too many in any case, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm a little surprised it bloomed so fast. It's under a year in my care at this point, but Tolumnias, sometimes if you purchase them in good condition, they can actually bloom within the year, even if they are young plants. Tolumnias typically mature pretty fast. So I'm very happy I purchased this particular one, because if you know me, I do love reds and oranges and flowers. P.S. I will link you to a care guide down below for Tolumnias. You will learn more about them if you're new to them. And to wrap it up, they are not known for having a fragrance, but they are known for being beautiful, easy to care for miniature orchids with an impressive bloom show. Next up, we have my one and only, the Cattleya or Cattlianthe. You'll see the tag on the screen, Lady in Red, which is a very old hybrid and one that I simply do not see anywhere for sale. So I'm trying to care for it as best as I can, because I do believe it's a bit of a one-of-a-kind at the moment. You know how these things go. Sometimes some hybrids are being restocked, so hopefully in the future we're gonna see it in stores more often, because I'm a little nervous around it. I only have one of it. And even if I can divide it, I would much rather have another individual with maybe slightly different sets of genetics, you know, just in case. But yeah, this is a beautiful Cattleya with a very mild fragrance that doesn't really show every year. This year, it doesn't really smell at all because it's quite cold now when it's in bloom, but I've had her in bloom in warmer conditions, and it does put out a very mild, kind of floral scent. So that's something, but the reason I really enjoy it is the coloration, obviously, and in reality it is a pretty dark and very vibrant red with that beautiful yellowy golden lip. It is an absolute treasure, and even though I paid, I don't know, 15 euros for it, it's one of my favorites, but it's also one that gives me some nervous feelings out of all of my collection. Next up, the one and only, yet again, Cattleya Hawaiian Splash Leia. Now, this is amongst the first Cattleya orchids that I've ever ordered. Not this particular individual, but this particular hybrid, so I have a very special place in my heart for it. Bonus, it is a miniature Cattleya orchid, which you guys know I absolutely adore. They fit everywhere, and I just like mini orchids. I like tiny orchids, tiny flowers, beautiful rainbowy colors. I like them. I like them so much. And Cattleyas are very close to my heart and easy to care for. So expect more mini Cattleya blooms soon. But to wrap it up with the Hawaiian Splash Leia, which I'm sure some of you older viewers already know for 10 years, for a decade at this point. It's not a fragrant Cattleya, but the colors are very vibrant, especially in the cool season. I'm filming it when it's already turning magenta, but when it first opens, it's more of a red color, which happens a lot with these types of mini Cattleyas. Next up, we have yet another crowd favorite. This is the Procatavola Golden Peacock, and goldeny she is. Look at that beautiful coloration. I am filming her at the beginning of her blooming when everything is a little bit more vibrant or slightly coppery. As the flowers age, they become a more neon-y, I shouldn't say pastel, but a lighter neon orange. Right now though, she looks absolutely spectacular. Now this is a Brassavola hybrid. It's slightly fragrant during nighttime, not daytime. It smells like a Brassavola, slightly soapy, but in a good way. And sometimes it can last and bloom for months. It is a very frequent bloomer. It is very easy to care for. It always makes my list of the most floriferous orchids or the most vigorous hybrids. You probably have seen her a lot in my videos, but if you don't know much about it, definitely it's something I recommend to beginners. It's not fussy, it grows under lights for me and barely receives any natural light, and it does tremendously well. Blooms multiple times a year, as I was saying, and is just absolutely worth purchasing. Next up, we have the Taiwan Mermaid. We've had her in bloom quite recently, but what happened was one of the older pseudobulbs, which had a dried sheath, decided to put out some blooms, and these are the blooms. Only 2 or 3, I'm counting. So not as spectacular as the last bloom that happened on the last pseudobulb, but this is a bit of a fluke. I did not expect this older pseudobulb to decide to put out some buds, but there we go, it did. Color-wise, this is quite a unique Cattleya orchid because it has this beautiful, vivid purple flower with the whitish type of a lip, which is a contrast and a color combo that is not very frequent, in my opinion, in the Cattleya world or even in the orchid world. So I really do enjoy it a lot. But if fragrance is what you're looking after, this is not the orchid for you. It just looks very pretty, but it's really not fragrant. For some of you, I'm sure this is good news, while for others, maybe not so good, but you can't deny it is really striking. Next up, a first bloomer for me and for the orchid herself. This is the Chief Berry. I don't remember all the name, but you will of course have tags on the screen. This is a mini Cattleya that I purchased, I do believe, last year in one of my orchid hauls, and it recently matured a pseudobulb and produced some flowers. Now, I would say this is quite a vigorous little hybrid because, you know, it had to go through transport, through getting used to my environment, repotting, all of those things, and it did so with flying colors. It did not suffer any setback, and it put out such an adorable bloom show. Now, the color of the flowers, it's not red, it's not pink, it's not purple, it's a very sweet orangey magenta. It's absolutely phenomenal, and the flowers are quite large compared to the orchid, I hope you can see. And of course, the yellow lip, beautiful, just the most perfect contrast. I love mini Cattleyas, if you cannot tell. This is such a beautiful orchid, definitely one for your wish list if you're into miniature Cattleyas. It does not have a fragrance, sadly or fortunately, depending on you. For me, you know, at this point, mini Cattleyas cannot disappoint me if they're not fragrant. Fragrance is always a bonus for me, but you know, I'm not gonna go cry in the corner if they're not fragrant. Just look how pretty they are. I would be a little disappointed if a fluffy Cattleya did not have fragrance, but these mini ones, absolutely not disappointed at all. Next up, I don't think you can recognize this. This is the Goldenboy. This is an orchid I tried to purchase in the past and I received it rotten on transport, and I craved for it for the next 2 or 3 years. And then I decided, what the heck, let's try to purchase it again, and this time it was packed correctly and it bloomed. And look at those blooms! They are orange, tiny, with a beautiful yellow lip bonus. This one is fragrant. I was not expecting this particular hybrid to be fragrant because it's a mini Cattleya, and these are not known to possess much of a fragrance, but it is fragrant, and guess what? It smells kind of like the Sederia japonica, which is a little bit lemony, but this one is a little bit sweeter than the Sederia japonica. Now this is good news for me because for the life of me I cannot rebloom the Sederia. I think my environment is way too hot for it. I'm trying to induce it into blooming outside at the moment, but it's not going that well, to be fully honest, so I personally might never rebloom the Sederia. Now I will not be so sad about it because this orchid kinda does smell like the Sederia, a little bit sweeter. And of course it's much easier for me to care for and rebloom. All of these mini Cattleyas do take the same care as any other Cattleya, and you will have, for the major orchid families, let's call them like that, you will have tutorials always linked in the description below, so check them out if you are new to orchids. I don't do anything special for these mini cats, and this is again one that I purchased last year and it suffered no setback, it bloomed. She's very nice, very vigorous, but she can bloom better than this. Being that it's a first time bloom for her as well, I'm expecting much better blooming shows from it in the future. You always have to know that the first blooming of an orchid can be either a little bit wonky, either it will not show the full potential, sometimes it's not even going to be fragrant. Everything improves with age when it comes to blooms. Next up, another crowd favorite. I hope it's one of my favorites. This is a species, this is Brassavola cucullata, that I've had for quite a while now, and every so often it just puts out a bud or two. It's not big enough to have a very impressive bloom show, but we're working towards it. I cannot wait to grow this one large enough that I have impressive bloom shows. At this point, I would much rather it time its bloomings and bloom, let's say, only once a year or twice a year, but with an impressive bloom show. Now it blooms every 2 months for me because that's when pseudobulbs mature. I will have a pseudobulb on the right maturing and flowering, and then in 2 months I will have another pseudobulb on the left maturing and blooming. But see, all of these pseudobulbs create 1 or 2 blooms per inflorescence, so I always have one of these kind of, not poor, but kind of modest, let's say, bloomings. I would rather have an impressive show than this, but hey, it's okay. We're gonna wait it out. She will grow. She's a vigorous orchid. It is not taken from the wild. Again, if you're new to orchids, we don't do that in this hobby or on this channel. I don't know what others are doing, but typically when you purchase even species, when you purchase them from reputable vendors and orchid nurseries, you will have them obtained in cultivation for hundreds of years at this point. Anyway, that's besides the point, just letting you know, it is a species. This is how you will find it in the wild, but this one has not been obtained from the wild. It is most likely tissue culture, like most orchids are in the hobby at this point. And the last orchid I'm going to show you is a special orchid. This is again one of the first Cattleyas I've ever had in bloom or I've ever ordered. It was in the same order with the Hawaiian Splash Leia a decade ago, but it's not this orchid. I lost that one. This is another individual, but it is this hybrid. This is the Dragon Cat something. It has a bit of a weird name. We're gonna excuse her for that. And she is one of the few greenish orchids that I own. Green is not a color that is very commonly found in the orchid hobby. There absolutely are some species or hybrids which have a green flower, but they're definitely not as common as pink or red or purple or things of the sorts. So this particular one has a special place in my heart because it's one of my first Cattleyas and because she's green. And can you see how big the flower is in comparison to the orchid? I would call it a fluffy flowered Cattleya, which she kinda is, but she's not as tall and she grows a little bit faster than those very big, tall, fluffy flowered Cattleyas. She's also fragrant, although again this year mildly fragrant. She has a bit of a floral and a bit of a citrusy fragrance to her, and it's just very mild at this point. I do believe the fragrance intensifies a little bit in summertime. If this flower would have opened in summer when it was hot, I'm pretty sure it would have had a better fragrance. But now that it's kind of gloomy outside and it's kind of cold, it's winter here, you know, I think the fragrance is a bit affected. So this is a fragrant orchid, not the most fragrant orchid of all, but definitely if you stick your nose into the flower, you will be pleasantly met with a florally and citrusy fragrance that I personally really like. And that has been it for this month. Again, I will remind you to leave me a comment telling me which orchid or orchids you enjoyed more this month and which are more likely to make your wish list. And if you do have any of these orchids, let me know your experience with them as well, because it's always fun to read how other people are growing their orchids and how they do for them and so on. So just, you know, comment whatever you'd like about these orchids that you've seen today. And I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today and learning maybe about these orchids if you've never seen them before, if you're new to orchids. And again, you can check the description for more beginner-friendly tutorials if you'd like to know more about something. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!